All right. So here we go. All right, here we go. So we're talking about SSH, all right, and how you can connect to a system via SSH. All right, there's a few different things or considerations that you have to take note of. The first thing is, is your system able to resolve the host name? That'll determine if you can hit that system via SSH using host name. All right. And like we were saying earlier, the syntax, the basic syntax to SSH into a system is going to be SSH space the account that you're SSHing with, right? It's got to be enabled for SSH, right? And then at the system name or host name or the IP address, whichever one is resolvable. And obviously the IP address has to be able to be reached by via network connection, right? You're not going to be able to SSH into a system if you can't hit the IP address. That's whether you're trying to hit it via IP address or host name. At the bare minimum, you need to be able to connect to that system over your network via IP address, right? And the easiest way to check that is by pinging that system. All right, so let me first check to make sure my VirtualBox VMs are powered on. And let's pull up VirtualBox. Let's see. They are not powered on, so I'm gonna power this thing on. I don't know why it popped on my other screen. Right over here. Slide this thing in there. There we go. Keep popping over to the other side. All right, here we go. All right, so yeah, sluggish today. All right, so my system is up. I'll log into it real quick. All right, so the first thing I want to do, the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to check the IP address. All right, host name, run that. Okay, so that's the host name. All right, I can run this same command with -I to check the IP address, and it gives me both the IPv4, which is the first one, it's space separated. So the second one is that long hexadecimal one is the IPv6 one. And usually I turn that stuff off. Turn that off real quick. Yes, I will. Okay. All right, so device down device. I'm just gonna bounce that. But what ended up happening was no interface specified because I didn't specify an interface. And let's do that. All right, so we'll back up. Okay, there we go. So that's kind of what I wanted. I just wanted to be able to show just
did you want to
for address? No, we're not gonna double back. So I got my IP address, cool. I know what my host name is. So just to refresh you on the host name, cool. And so at a minimum, I could SSH with just the IP address. The thing that makes it easier is if you have host name resolution set up, right? But we're gonna go ahead and do a ping check real quick on .126. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull up my terminal again. And so we're gonna do a ping check, ping space 192.168.254, and what I said 126. All right. If I get good pings, which I do, that means I can SSH, right? And I want to try to SSH with the root account, which I logged into. Of course, production systems, you don't want to enable root for SSH. Generally, you'll have you'll have root disabled altogether, but this is a lab environment, so it's okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is SSH and then root and then the IP address 192.168.254.126. Not 5, but 6. All right, straight like that. It's the same syntax, similar syntax as an email address, but you're not going to have a series of numbers in your email address. It'll be some kind of like domain name, right? But this is kind of what would help you remember the syntax for the SSH. And the reason why you need to put the user account name is that if you don't, it will try to use the account name that you're currently logged into with the current system that you're on, right? If I was logged in as root on the system that I'm on right now, which is my MacBook, I could just go SSH and then the IP address by itself without specifying a username, all right? So it's gonna run this. If it's your first time, it'll do a key check. But this isn't my first time, so I put my password in and voila, I'm in there. And you can see that by this syntax. Within my terminal, I have the name of the account that I'm logged in as currently at, and then the host name. All right. So that same syntax that you would use for logging in by SSH is the same syntax you would see, in your bash session. And then of course it's what they call it, a tilde or whatever. That's a shortcut for your home directory. So this is going to show you where you are within the directory structure. If I do an LL and I CD into test, that little symbol would change into the word test, showing that I'm now in the test directory. All right, so I'm going to back out real quick. And now, we saw that my IP address worked. All right. And so now what I want to do is I want to see if I can hit it by a host name, which the host name is going to be rel-01.lab. All right. So I want to see if I can ping that. Ping rel-01.lab. All right. When I try to ping that, I do not get any replies. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to add this to my host name, because I'm not able to resolve the host name to an IP address. And Queen, like we was talking before, the easiest way to understand what name resolution means for a system, it's almost like, you want to call somebody on your cell phone, right? You don't memorize everybody's number in your cell phone. Like if you 35 plus years old, you probably remember that time when we used to remember people's phone numbers. But nowadays, people rarely remember people's phone numbers. You know what I mean? You'll go to a name and you'll press call, right? And you'll let the phone do that work. But before you can do that, you have to program that name and a number to that name, right? You create that contact in your phone and you marry a phone number, at least one or more phone numbers, to that name. So that now moving forward, you don't need the number, you just need to know the name, and the phone does the work to draw correlation between, hey, this name goes to this phone number. All right. So that is what's going on here, right? But enterprise systems have what's called a DNS server, domain name server, and they do that resolution, right? So you'll have an entry within your IP configuration that says, hey, this is my DNS server. So that means if I don't know how to get to something, I'm going to ask this server, hey, can you tell me how to get to XYZ, this name? What's the IP behind this name within this system that you know about, right? If you know about it. The other way to do it, if you don't have a DNS server, is you have a local host file. Every system has a local host file that it would check. And to be honest, pro tip, your system will check the host file first. And host file entries will pretty much override a DNS server, right? Because if it's got that entry local, if it can resolve it locally, it's not gonna go off and check the DNS server. It's just gonna go with whatever it has locally. So be aware of that right there too. So I'm gonna check my host file, and I need the sudo because it's one of those type of situations. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. This is a lot of stuff that I got going on. All right. So what I'm just gonna put this at the very top up here. So I'm in a VM session. So I'm just gonna press O. It's just gonna drop me down one more line. And I'm going to repeat the same because I like to keep stuff separated. So I'm just gonna copy this and then paste it. And then I say, try to keep stuff organized. Real loud. Okay. And then from here, you'll put the IP address first, and then you'll put the name after, which you can already see that here. And there's an example at the top. Your system should have this at a minimum, right? It'll have the IPv4 one. It's local loopback address. It starts with 127, and it'll say localhost. Sometimes it'll say localhost dot local domain. And then it'll also have a second set of entries saying just localhost. That's the FQDN or fully qualified domain name and the short name. All right, so I'm going to do that same syntax. So my IP address was 192.168.254. What was it, 126. All right, I'm going to give it a space. And then I'm going to do the fully qualified domain name, which is rel01.lab. And then I'll go further and I will put rel-01. All right. So my system should be able to resolve using a fully qualified host name as well as a short name. Okay. But to start, I'm just gonna like take this out and we're gonna come back and do that. Right. So now if I ping rel01.lab, I should get returns. Cool. And if I just ping the short name, I still get returns. Okay, that's different. So it automatically took that from the fully qualified. Okay, that's a little weird. Let me try something different though. If I wanted to give it an alias, right? Let's say new. All right, unknown host. So if I went back in here, yeah, I've never seen it like automatically take that short name. Rel01 new. Okay. So now the dash new. So you can put different names in here for your system. Make sure you don't have any collisions where you have the same name for multiple IP addresses. And if you do have you know, the same name for different multiple IP addresses, it's gonna work its way down. So the first one is the one that's gonna catch. All right. So make sure your stuff don't get overwritten. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna clean this up. So I'm just gonna go here and do a capital D to scrap that. And this is what I want my stuff to look like. All right. So I can ping just yeah, okay. So I can't ping that again. But I can still ping the short name. So I've SSH into the system using the IP address. Now I'm gonna SSH using 01. All right, cool. And like I was saying before, it's gonna validate the key to make sure that I trust this system. All right. Host key is known by the following. Okay. All right, cool. That's fine. I have a few little collisions in here just since I reuse the same little simple names. All right, so it works. I'm in here, right? And like I was saying, it's the same syntax that I would use if I copy this name and then exit it. Oh, I don't have to copy and exit because That's actually what I use to get in there the first time. This time around, it won't ask me to check the key again because I already said it was good to go. All right, so now I just put the password in, and I'm good. Okay. So to refresh what we already spoke about, SSHing into a system, at a minimum, you will need the account that you're SSHing with that's enabled for SSH, and then you would also need the IP address or the host name. The host name will only work if the system you're on is able to resolve an IP address from that host name. Other than that, you should be able to connect using the IP address. If it has network connectivity, you will validate SSH has network connectivity using ping. Ping is going to be the number one troubleshooting tool. So don't be afraid to use that. So quick rule of thumb is, if you're unsure, try pinging the IP address first, and then try pinging the host name. If you get good pings, you should be able to SSH. If you can't SSH, there's an issue where either you're using an account that isn't enabled for SSH, or SSH service, the SSH system service may be off or not running, and maybe some other issue on your system. But generally, you should be able to SSH if those first three things are true, meaning you have network connectivity via IP address, you can resolve the host name, and the account you're using is enabled for SSH. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So, okay. SSH port 22, SSH means secure shell. So, what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's taking your computer to another server securely. Is that correct?
It's not really taking your computer to another server. It's you're just logging in from a distance. Yeah, it's just a remote login session for the most part. Like, you can walk and get in front of your laptop, right? That's a local terminal session, right? It's a hard terminal session. But there's also, virtual terminal sessions, right? Yeah, my VM is right here on my system, so it doesn't really seem like a remote connection. But my VM, as long as I have network connectivity to it, it could be on the other side of the planet. This VM could be in the cloud, in AWS or Azure or GCP, whatever, right? Which is hundreds of miles away, and I can still SSH to it. So you have local terminal sessions, and then you have virtual terminal sessions. This is a virtual terminal session, a remote connection.
So this is a VLAN.
No.
Okay.
What I want you to really kind of focus on, instead of trying to dial around the terminology, which is good to know the terminology. First, I need you to be able to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Okay. If you can hone in on that and not really kind of muddy the waters of your understanding with trying to understand the terms and trying to do correlation in that way, I think that would be good if you could forego that and put that on the back burner and just get the activity down, meaning get down the syntax of how to SSH and what it enables you to do. The first thing that it enables you to do, it enables you to connect to a system, using a virtual terminal. So don't worry too much about port numbers and stuff like that. That'll come in later. It'll be more relevant later, but right now it's a situation of just knowing what you're doing and how to do it. How to do it first, and then it's like, okay, well, what can I do from here? Once you SSH into a system, well, why would I want to SSH into a system, right? Because we already saw that I have this local terminal session right here. So if I'm connected with a local terminal session, I've logged into the system, I've run commands on this system from a local terminal session. Why would I want to SSH to this system? Well, for one, if I wanted to copy and paste something, I could copy and paste something out and into this system using this virtual terminal. I cannot do that from here. I can't even highlight text. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little easier from an instructional perspective as me leading a demonstration, and it's also easier from a work or engineering perspective. If you're actually working and troubleshooting or working on a deployment or implementation, you can copy and paste commands that you may have in some kind of run book or something like that. So those are the whys why you would want to do this type of stuff. I would really try to focus on that right there. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay. So make sure you write down the syntax, right? SSH account at IP address or host name. And then know these are the things that you would need to check to ensure that you can SSH use an IP address. These are the things you would need to ensure to make sure you can SSH using a host name. All right. And if you can, cover down that, you shouldn't have any issues. Get in the practice of creating host files. Don't be lazy and just connect with IP address. It's important. It's imperative that you know how resolution works. Cool. Any questions? Any other questions?
I did have a question. So the reason why I was asking that question is earlier you mentioned, let me look at my notes. You mentioned the default is a local host file. Remember that? Okay, so
okay, let me pull up. You mean pull up the host file?
It can go either to the DNS server or the local host file, and the local host file is the default. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's not really a default. I guess you can call it a default. It's just the first place that the system checks.
Okay, so but you see how you see why I was asking, was it a VLAN or a LAN? Because when I understand,
VLAN is networking. VLAN has nothing to do with like DNS.
Yes. It has no, okay, so
it's it's higher on the stack. If you know your TCP/IP stack, networking happens at layer 3. Okay, and then your VLAN, and your VLAN is gonna be actually VLAN is not even layer 3. It's like layer 2, right? It's MAC addresses. But DNS is higher on the stack. So that's
the data layer. It's at the data layer, correct?
The data link layer is layer 2. So don't let the word data confuse you into thinking that it's higher. It's probably at the I want to say it's at the application layer. Shoot, I'm drawing blanks on the stack. But just know it's at a different level than networking. It's higher than your networking is going to be. So they're different. You know what I'm saying?
Application layer. DNS operates in the application layer, layer 7.
Thank you for validating that. But yeah, so this is not going to be a networking situation. Pinging, being able to ping that system or not, that will be a networking situation. So not being able to ping it, yeah, you would need to troubleshoot, check your networking.
So what I gathered from this whole thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Hey Davis, hey Shamil. What I gathered from this whole session is you need to understand what SSH is, why it does what it does, where it's located, how you can be able to call it away from the local file. You can be able to use DNS, and it's better to manually go through the steps rather than using shortcuts so you can see the process. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think that's fair enough. But I'll recap just in case something was misspoken or misunderstood. Understanding the syntax for SSH, numero uno, right? Syntax, basic syntax is a lot of things you can do with SSH, but the basics of it is going to be, and we're assuming that you're not doing it you're not connecting using an account that we'll assume you're using a different account, right? We'll say I'm logged in with John on my local system, but I want to use the account name Travis, right? So for me to SSH to this system using Travis's account, and Travis's password, I'm gonna put SSH Travis at whatever the name of that system is, or whatever the IP address of that system. That's my syntax. All right, let me type that real quick. So I'm gonna SSH space Travis at let's say server. Actually, what I do is I go and put a fictitious IP address in here first. All right, so I can hit the IP address. All right, that's my syntax. For me to check to ensure my IP address is good, I would probably want to ping my IP address first, 192.168.1.12, right? This is my troubleshooting to ensure that I can connect to it via network. All right. So once I can ping it, now I should be able to, hit it using Travis's credentials as long as this account exists and it has SSH abilities and I have the correct password. I should be straight. We'll talk about SSH keys on a different date. That's a different rabbit hole. But for host name, we want to do the same validation, right? We've already validated that the IP address is able to be connected by this ping of the IP address. So we're assuming the IP address is good. It's been checked. I'm putting network troubleshooting, but we're not really name resolution troubleshooting. How about we do that? All right, that's more true. All right, so from that we'll ping server 01. We'll just assume we named it server 01. All right, so we try to ping server 01. And if we can't ping it, then we're gonna add that entry to our host file. That's the host file path. Mac OS, Linux, no matter what variation it is. It's a little bit different on Windows, but we're not messing around with Windows. But the name is still gonna be host, right? On Windows too. But yeah, you're gonna go etc host. And from here, your syntax is gonna be on the IP address. And then we're gonna go with the host name. And like I was saying, you can do the fully qualified host name if you have an actual domain that you're using, and then do a space or a tab and then do the short name as well. That way you can hit it by either the fully qualified name or you can hit it by the short name, right? And the purpose of doing this is just because you may just call this thing lab box 1, right? It's easy to remember. It's my lab box 01. That's the purpose of host names. Things that you will remember, things that you understand its function. If you have different servers that do different things, you may have a DNS server, right? You may want to, call this thing DNS 01. You know what I'm saying? Or DNS01.lab. You can put a number of these different names, but it has to be something that you're gonna remember, right? But this is a host file entry. Once you've gotten that down and you can connect, obviously you're gonna go back. Once you put this host file entry in there, you're gonna ping it again to validate that your host file entry is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and you're gonna say do the same thing. SSH Travis at we'll say that's 01 or SSH Travis at server 01.lab or just server 1. Any one of those names. As long as you can ping it, you can hit it with SSH. As long as the aforementioned things are true. The account is present. It has ability to SSH, and you can resolve the host name that you're trying to SSH you to. Okay.
Thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Yep. And I'm just gonna go escape and then Q bang. All right. Where I said Q with a bang, bang is exclamation mark. That will quit without a saving. So when I go back in here, none of that trash was saved. All right. Cool. You wanna take over and try your hand? I'll start the recording real quick.